Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. Hello. So let us start. Is there anything that we would like to demo this week?
I could showcase the excellent work that Graham has been doing to an extent.
Yeah, that'd be super.
So if everyone recalls from last week's demo meeting, we've been having this issue where services that need to communicate with the console will sometimes get a obnoxious error message. We've played with a couple incantations which allowed us to change the behavior of how service discovery communicates with the endpoint that's necessary. So we went from using the default method of just specifying, hey, go reach this service, and then Kubernetes routes you perfectly and you get sent to a random pod. We then changed that to a headless service where the attempt was allowing Kubernetes to decide which pods you go to pending the state of, I can't remember how the headless service works at the moment, but we tried that and it didn't work either. And in fact caused more errors, or the rate of errors was a lot more. So our latest incantation was to change it to using a node port service, in which we specified a specific port. First time we rolled this out, we ended up barfing a lot of errors in Kubernetes because we are using an older version of Kubernetes and there's just an incompatibility with this version, which is fine, but we fixed that. But later, yesterday, Graham discovered that this was not actually doing what we intended. So these error messages we see here are the same stuff we've been seeing that we've been trying to eliminate. But in this case, it's just pointing to the IP address of that node and going to that port. However, apparently node ports work by sending the request to this port, which then gets forwarded to the service and then back to a console pod. So we were still not leveraging the end goal here, which was to take the traffic and keep it locally on that node. Graham made that change. So now we are talking to port 8600 on that host versus going out to a Kubernetes service to make this traffic exchange happen. As you can see from the logs, the last time this happened was at 3:10 a.m. UTC. So this change has been rolled out for quite a while, and we haven't seen, this is staging. We haven't seen errors since. So this is fantastic. This is kind of proof that things are working as desired. Staging is a lot more lightweight. So if I go back a little bit further in time, you'll see the rate of this does kind of drop off, like we were seeing this on a regular cadence. So this is, within an hour, seeing between 5 and say 20 of these errors during times of high load and staging, which is very rare. If you hear construction noise behind me, my apologies. But you can see that there is a drop off when Graham rolled this change out. And right now would be an opportune time where we should be seeing a lot of these failures come through. So I think the work that Graham has resolved here is promising. So in related to our discussion items, I think what I'm going to work on today is creating the necessary change requests to roll this out into production, get this done with today. And that way, hopefully, I'm not going to say it, but maybe we're an inch closer to pushing the API into the Canary stage. Well, sending traffic into Kubernetes in the Canary stage.
Yeah, I think we really found a solution to a very long-standing issue with that. I mean, that was really great and hard research. I think we learned a lot by this, right? I mean, we learned about this bug in our old Kubernetes version with specifying this port for 2 different protocols, which isn't working. And then learned a lot about this way that we can use Helm to patch our Kubernetes installations if we don't have support for that in the charts, which is not very nice, but still a workaround to get us forward in a lot of cases, right? And also learning a lot about how node ports, host ports, and all this is working. So think that's cool.
Yeah, I think there's a documentation situation here because I could have sworn that this latest change was going to be the solution, but then it didn't change the behavior at all. So I was concerned about that. And then discovering that we used the wrong port number confuses me, but it makes sense as you read it. But it's just mind boggling what we had to go through to get to this point. So yesterday, I opened a bunch of issues. One is to get some help from the developers to add logging because currently we don't have a very clear, concise way of determining how bad of a problem this was initially from the first place. That could probably be closed. And then I opened up an issue with GCP to see if they could provide us additional troubleshooting steps, and maybe we could close that.
Let's wait till we know it's fixed.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Just
I'm gonna wait
the
till we get
logging is
this
not going to
through to
be
production.
dangerous
But
to have
yeah,
it, right? So it would still be interesting, I think, to know, like, well, we won't know great, but like it might be interesting to know how problematic it is. Once we do get this fixed, I'll open a retro issue because, yeah, I think we learned a lot, but also I think that there was some things that we maybe want to do differently next time or learn from or avoid or things like that. But I mean, overall, it's an interesting one because I think that this solution, like, hopefully this is the fix. And I think one of the reasons Graham was pushing on this one was partly because he hoped it was a fix, but also because it was just a simpler architecture. And so it was a kind of win, and hopefully a win-win, but that's a good one for thinking about in the future as we, like, how do we get logging and how do we simplify things when we see odd stuff. I'm wondering today, Henry, how much time have you got? Maybe you can actually help, because it'd be great to get this stuff into production today if we can, because Graham will be coming online tonight, well, daytime for him, but it's his Friday. So we're rapidly getting to the end of the week. So it'd be great if we could get this stuff through to production today, and then that gives Graham kind of all of his day to keep an eye on it as well.
Yeah, I just reviewed that and approved this for this meeting, so I can just go on also work on the CR Scarbeck to get this in production. I mean, it looks like we can just do it, right? I mean, this is a one-line change, and it should be deployed without interference to anything, right? So that should be fine to do.
I would agree. I think a change request is just for posterity, auditing purposes.
Yeah, then let's do it. I will create the CR after this meeting then. And we can push it through.
That'd be great. Thanks, Henry.
Just need to wait for the production deployment to finally finish eventually, because this is going on since hours, right? Because of a migration.
It will take hours to complete.
Yeah.
Post-deployment migration, creating an index on CI build.
Is this the one that failed on Canary yesterday?
After 5 hours, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's not that one that failed after 5 hours. This one failed immediately because of the the other error. But
the first try of that took 5 hours.
So maybe it will take less than 5 hours, because the one that failed because it took 5 hours were 2 indexes on the same table, and this one is only one. So we don't know. So
maybe only 3 hours.
we are completely blind on this. We have no idea what is happening. And
wow, okay,
we should
definitely review that one as well.
Okay. I have a question on this thing. I didn't follow the problem closely, but we were trying to troubleshoot this in last week. So I don't understand why we were able to get the console DNS information when we were testing it on the shell in the Rails console. So where was the problem? Because we were able to reach console and get the information back.
Recreating this issue is horribly difficult. Graham ended up spinning up a simple test using a while loop and just sat there doing the same request over and over again, hoping to find the issue. And eventually he did. So it was a very sporadic problem, which is what made this troubleshooting so horribly difficult. So I don't know, like, it worked for us because we were using the same workflow as our Rails code, but the fact that we couldn't recreate just means there's something underlying inside of Kubernetes that we're still not seeing. That's what we are hitting. So
did we test with the pods coming in and out? Because that was the thing kind of Graham was talking to me about yesterday. Was so the problem is that the pods start talking to console, and then due to scaling, console gets scaled away into a different pod basically, or somewhere else. So it loses touch with it. So it's just a disconnect. By keeping them together, they scale together.
The effort that we were troubleshooting in last week's demo was simply trying to recreate the problem just in general. We weren't trying to test targeting a specific pod in a specific scale event, because testing that would involve having to put everything inside of another while loop and just hoping that it would happen. Because during a scale event, you don't know which pods are going to get removed and you don't know which nodes are going to get removed. So we may be on the wrong pod that shows the behavior, right? So it would have been very difficult for us to figure this out, which is why I decided maybe we should just add additional logging, so that way we could start tracking how bad this actually is. But I think
we reached we reached the right conclusion last week. When we were able to get the information we saw, probably is something related to the amount of requests. So it's a sporadic error. It doesn't happen so often because otherwise it would then never work. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and you. Graham mentioned in this issue somewhere that Sidekick sees this a lot more often than our services, either the API or the Git services, and that's partially due to load, but we also have more Sidekick pods running than we do Git services. So there's also just the volume of requests that are occurring that also impacts this as well.
Nice. Well, hopefully, I'm really hoping this is fixed. It's a good sign that staging looks stable, because this probably is visible during deployments based on it's to do with scaling. So that's hopefully a good sign. How would you feel, Skarbek, about putting a small amount of traffic into Canary?
After we push this production, yes.
Do like even a small amount before? I mean, it sounds like it won't be too far out, but like how much risk do you think there'd be for a small amount of Canary traffic with this? I mean, maybe the answer is
probably
you don't know.
low. It's probably low, but at this point, I just want to get rid of this issue. Get rid of this issue. Let's close it out. Let's get this stuff into production. That way, it's just one less checklist item that I need to deal with in the first place.
But if Henry is dealing with that bit, is there other things we can do to push forwards on the migration? Like, would the next step be to actually get traffic running on Canary, or?
Yeah. So I'll be creating the necessary change requests to do that work, and going through my merge requests just to make sure it's up to snuff.
Do you want to push on with that and assume, like, so I'm kind of at the stage with this service discovery that this fix looks pretty good on staging. I'm really hoping this is the fix for production. But if it's not, I think we're going to have to push forward that logging and then really work out like how big an issue this is, and whether it's actually like really has to block Canary or not, because it sounded when I spoke to Graham that the alternative to doing that is basically we have to just run a load of experiments on staging and hope we hit a fix.
Yeah.
Which is an unknown amount of time, right? So
yeah, I started creating the change request last week so I could finish that up and get that out for review. And then hopefully at that moment in time, Henry will have finished or have started the change request for the service discovery fix. So we could be working on this in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's try and do that. It'd be great to get some traffic running on Canary, like in the next, like as soon as we can, really, so that we can actually see if there's anything else we need to worry about.
There are two things I want to highlight. The first one would be, it would be great if we can actually put some traffic now on the API on Canary, because that will give us the before. It would be great to see the before on Canary, because once Henry is able to then roll out the fix, we'll know the after, whether this was actually the thing that was fixing it, right? Because if we are going in right now on Canary and rolling out the change Graham did, we won't know. Like, right, like it might be that Canary or production didn't even have this, but it might be that Canary just doesn't have this problem and we'll see it in production. It would be good if you do the before.
But we see this on Sidekick in production already, right? So we have this issue.
Sidekick, any Rails application that uses service discovery, we currently see this on.
Without the API even.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we have an issue already all the time that just would be maybe worse with API.
Well, let's,
the amount of traffic. But
can we confirm that? As in, I don't want to cause an outage, but I want to put some traffic on this so we can see how much worse it makes it. Because if this has been a blocker, then I get to ask a question of, oh, sorry, if this has been a problem, then I get to ask a question of why was this a blocker for API migration, right? And if the answer is, well, because the volume might actually push it over the line, let's add a bit of volume to see how much it will change.
That sounds good. I'll create a change request. Well, I'll finish up my change request and I'll add some extra details to capture the before and after of these charts and such.
Awesome. And then the second thing is, even if we enable API today and tomorrow and everything is fine, can we make sure that on Friday afternoon, we pull this back, because I do not want a single thing possibly derailing PG upgrade on Saturday. Like not a single thing, from our side at least, right? Cool, thanks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there anything else we need to dial back tomorrow ahead of the PG upgrade?
I think based on the practices that have been done, no. I just think that there would be a possibility for derailing if we now enable a service that was not
yeah, I meant kind of like if we have any other experimental things.
I think we should be fine.
Cool. And did the readiness review all got approved? Was that last week, Skubbeck?
It was either early last week or the week prior, but yeah, we got the readiness review fully merged in.
Awesome.
So all the risks and all the fun stuff has been documented in some way, shape, or form that we know about.
Awesome. Great stuff. Nice. Is there anything else we want to cover on service discovery or getting traffic on Canary? No. One other thing that we can wrap up in next week is Jav mentioned as well, we should just test the hot patcher. It's still working for the API. That he is going to do the fire drill next Wednesday for hot patch anyway, so we can just wrap it up into that, I think. So we can keep an eye on that one. Nice. Andrew, is there anything you want to demo or discuss?
Sorry, we had another clash. I think we were intending to.
I realize, yeah.
It's okay.
I'll talk to Rachel. We'll work out our meeting schedule.
I think we moved both of them to another new time, and then, but yeah. So I started taking a look at the ingress stuff yesterday, and then just since yesterday to now, it's been CI problems. So I haven't looked into that as much as I'd hoped. But I posted a problem yesterday before all the troubles began, and I haven't even really reviewed the answer yet. But I just wanted to understand whether there's some difference between the way we monitor ingress in staging and in production, or if it's just the lack of traffic that's causing that difference. I don't know. Apologies, Skubbeck, for not actually like reviewing your response, but it's still like on the back burner from incidents.
The answer for me is like, I'm not entirely sure either anyways.
Yeah.
But to hopefully get to the point of the possibility of it being a traffic based item, hopefully today we'll enable API for a period of time minimally. And then maybe we could start seeing if we get any new metrics out of the ingress controllers.
Okay. Yeah, so basically what we were seeing there is that I think last week I said that Nginx has got really horrible metrics, but I don't know why, but Nginx ingress controller for Kubernetes on staging has got really nice metrics. And I don't know whether they, so when we have Nginx running in a VM, there's an endpoint called /status, and it's got very, very terse, like pretty useless metrics really. And I assumed that that's all we would get from the Nginx ingress. And in production, it's kind of like that, or in gprod. But in staging, there's like, we've got durations, we've got counts, we've got status codes, the whole lot. And if we can get that going in production, then we'll have some really nice, like, at the edge monitoring there, which is exciting. But we'll need some more labels. So I will be sending out requests for more labels now. That's all I really have to update this week, unfortunately.
Some people, we must have labeled everything, right? Can we make a bot for this? Like,
yeah. Are they? But now it's easy. We've got labels on all the objects. We've got like the option to label all objects in Cloud Native in the charts, right? So it's not like we have to add or is that not the case?
All objects, everything that we manage or that we've created, rather, yes. Stuff that we use external to us, like the Redis and Postgres and certificate stuff, and the Nginx ingress is one of them. We just need to figure out how to add those additional labels because we forked the Nginx ingress controller. We didn't make our own.
Yeah. So what we did, I showed you the saturation for the node pools, right? I think we did that last week, or maybe it was after last week. But with that, we actually worked around. So what I realized was the labels that we'd need on the node pool, they're very easy for us to add, but we'd need to rebuild all the pools. And so I just felt like, let's rather not do that. And so we had a little workaround where we maintain our own recording rules for the labels for those node pools. And when we rebuild those node pools, we can put them on like as and when we rebuild them and get rid of it. And it just unblocked us without having to rebuild and taint and rebuild all the node pools that we have already, because it just felt like that was too much work. So we could do something like that as well if we were blocked. Like now that I'm working on this stuff on a daily basis, if we found that it was going to be like a 2-month turnaround to get something into Cloud Native GitLab or whatever, then I would probably just do the same thing there and then leave it as technical debt for later.
Hopefully adding additional labels to the ingress controllers doesn't take much effort, but I have not looked into it, so I don't know. I won't know that until I look into it.
Cool. But yeah, the ingress is cool. I don't know whether it's really worth it, but I noticed that a whole bunch of the Thanos stuff has got persistent volume claims, and it would be quite nice. I don't know if that's going to be the only thing that we ever have in our infrastructure that uses PVCs, but I was wondering whether we should label that as well, or whether it just kind of, because it's like a once-off, it's just a special snowflake. But I did notice that some of those are getting quite high, and I don't know what alerting we've got on them at the moment.
I didn't know we were using PVCs for Thanos, so that's new information to me. We probably should add some monitoring to it, because otherwise we're going to run a disk space eventually, right?
We do have some. Oh, I know something that I can show as well. Sorry, this isn't very exciting, but it is. Oh, I'm having a terrible time sharing on my computer. But there's a kube. We have a kube service. Maybe I'll just send a link. We have a kube service dashboard in. Let me just put it into the channel. And so this dashboard, I'm not going to share my screen because it just doesn't work anymore. But in this dashboard, you'll see if you open up the saturation section, there's this kube persistent volume claim disk space, and same with inodes. And those are pretty much the only things in there, as far as I can tell, are Thanos. So we do have the alerting, and it should probably be fine. Like if that alert goes off, it'll say it's the kube service. We'll go in and we'll see, oh, it's actually Thanos. But if we had lots of different persistent volume claims, then I would say it would be better for it to say, the Gitly service or the Redis service RDB or whatever has got a problem. But if it's just the one, then it's probably not worth the effort. I don't know.
I would not assume that we'll have one. Maybe won't have it soon, but
but it's all really a question of timing. Like, do we need to do that as part of this, or can we wait until we start putting stateful loads into Kubernetes? Like, and roughly when that'll be.
Yeah, if it takes you 5 minutes to do it, I would rather do it now and not forget about it later. But if it's longer than that, then it can definitely wait. So
probably be. And the other thing that's quite nice about that dashboard, like, I don't know if it's really that helpful yet, but we've got all the actual API server for Kubernetes itself is being monitored there. And so I'm guessing if Google have an outage on their GKE clusters in some way, it might prove to be quite difficult for us to guess that that's happening at first. And so this will be quite nice, especially once we start putting SLOs on it, because we'll actually get an alert that the kube service API server is acting strangely. So that's quite a nice thing as well. So that's on there as well.
Andrew, just a quick question about the error ratio. I thought in the merge request we were counting warning messages towards the error ratio.
No, that is that's only for the logs. So if you scroll down to to the API service, and then you click on Kubernetes cluster warning logs, and this is actually quite a useful thing for people to. So what I was trying to do there was look for everything that's not like debugging information, and so that's where I'm searching for critical error warning. And that's how I spotted that problem with the node port. And it's gone away, which is quite nice, because when I looked at it, there was like lots of stuff in there, and now there's a small amount of stuff. Although, there's still some strange things. Invalid metrics from GitLab web service WebSockets. Like, what's that?
So that happens often. Anytime a new pod spins up, it takes, I don't know, about 3 minutes before metrics actually start being gathered or computed by the API or whatever the metric server is. That's a
for the
message.
HPA.
It's kind of annoying.
Oh, it's just It's just it's quite nice having. It's quite a useful link. I think that's that thing. I think especially if we have an incident, then you can go through that and maybe see something useful there. So there's that.
Hey, Andrew, cool. Another quick question. Why is that link that you shared, Kube overview, why is it in Kube folder and not in Kubernetes folder?
We can rename it. Like everything, we've had everything already up to now. The folder is type equals kube, and that has been set for several months. We can change it to Kubernetes, but then it's got to match the type label and the saturation metrics and everything like that. So it's just that kube is what's being used on the saturation metrics and in several places.
Let me share real quick, just to ask a question, because like if I do this, like I have whatever, right? Like all of this is great. Like we have per service division, but then which one do I do?
Right. Okay. So okay. I got.
You know what I mean, right? Like
so that is okay. So
if I remember correctly, the Kubernetes folder was something that was automatically generated, and it's probably half abandoned. So we either remove that or we rename Kube to Kubernetes and like kind of align it, because it's gonna be confusing.
Can we not just put all the, so we'll break all of the metrics that we've got and any of the history that we've got in there if we change it to Kubernetes? So what about if we do it the other way around? Because then we've got to, the other reason is that Kubernetes being as long as it is, and Grafana's got a 40 character limit on dashboard names and so you kind of, there's not much left after that.
As long as we have some consistency. That's what I'm looking for. I need to drop out.
For now, let's definitely leave it. Yeah, cool. Skarbek, I would say for now, let's definitely leave those, because in in a situation you might still want those dashboards. Like I don't find them particularly helpful because they're so difficult to kind of get to the right workloads, but there could be a
agree.
situation where it's important.
Yeah,
So I will
sometimes I
move
still
them into
use
the
them.
keep
So
directory. Yeah.
I think along with whatever that rename is going to happen, can we add the label to the chart or to the dashboard, just the word Kubernetes? That way, if someone types the word Kubernetes, they'll quickly find it. Because once they start typing the entire word, Q will disappear from their search.
Yeah. Okay. I will have to figure that out because it's all generated, but I'll figure something out for that. Cool.
I have
I know
another
what
question.
I rename I give the title on the folder Kubernetes, and then it'll always go there. That's how I'll figure that out. Yes.
I have another question. I have a desire to increase the observability of Nginx, specifically the controllers, in terms of logging. Historically, we've never intake our Nginx logs into Elasticsearch because they're so voluminous. Same reason for HA proxy.
Yeah.
Looking at just the API service Rails log, we generate 327 million events in one day. What's the harm in having 327 additional million events additionally for the Nginx service in Elasticsearch? I don't know how to evaluate whether that's going to blow up our cluster or not.
I think that was a big cost discussion, right? I mean, at the beginning, it was really about costs, and I think we would need to discuss it with finance and Andrew and so on.
I also think that we did, just for a little bit of extra history, we did actually have those Nginx logs at one stage in Elk. And we found with the cost and with the fact that nobody ever used them for anything because they've only got a limited number of fields that you can't really configure that. Well, at least in Omnibus, it's kind of difficult to configure them. So there was never much in there that we used. So we stopped using it. What do you want to get out of it? Like, what are you looking for that you don't have elsewhere?
So sometimes Nginx will log whether it's buffering a request, and that was one of the things we considered a blocker because we had that custom Nginx configuration that we worked so hard to put in place. So having detailed information such as that, or if Nginx is doing something goofy, because this is a service that we don't really manage at all. Like we have it managed in Omnibus because we install it and we configure it, but the Nginx Ingress controller, slightly less so. Because this was a fork of a project that we brought into our environment. So there's not really, for me specifically,
as opposed to the access logs, because there's two separate streams in Nginx. And the error logs, the only thing that's a bit rubbish about the error logs is the last time I looked at them, they don't have like a URL or anything. They're just kind of like stream of consciousness, kind of like didn't buffer this request. And then you've got to figure out which request it's talking about.
Okay, maybe we've got a few issues related to logging. So aside from trying to grab specific error, just the error stream, what if we, because currently we don't do this, what if we send the data to BigQuery? Would that be useful at all? Because I also don't know the usefulness of these logs because I feel like they're repetitive between HA proxy and the actual web service itself. They're just duplicate information, triplicate information.
What about if as a first level we just put the errors because we should be doing something with the error logs, right? I mean, like it's actually a bit bad that we are just sending them to DevNull at the moment.
I agree.
So what about if we focus on the error logs and not the access logs? Nginx _error log, and then put those in Elk. I don't think they're structured in any way, but like, that's fine.
That's a good start. Okay, I'll find the issue and I'll modify the acceptance criteria to account for just that, because that'll be pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Sounds good. Awesome. Is there anything else that we need to demo, discuss, plan for? Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Andrew. Nice detail. Because what I was going to say is those cats are quite cute, Scarbeck, but new cats.
I could show pictures. Do you want pictures?
Yes. Yes.
Hang on. They're in quarantine for 2 weeks. They all are suffering some form of eye infection. Give me a second. I feel like upper respiratory infections are horribly common.
Are there? Is it a thing that kittens get?
I guess, because that's my wife has been dealing with that primarily, and it's a little interesting. Slack. So I don't know the names of these cats yet. I think Robin is still trying to figure that out, but this is one of the Siamese looking ones. You could tell it's a little eye crusty thing going on. But it's cute, it's adorable, fits in your hand. Here's another one. This one's mostly gray and white, but you can see it's got little eye goops and such. It's cute. And then the third one, another Siamese-like one, but more leaning on the white side. So yeah, 3 kittens.
Lucky I don't live near you. This would be a real problem. I'd have like 20 cats by now.
We only have 6 cats in this house. I thought we were going to have a lot more, but then something changed at the very last second. So I don't know.
Only.
Yeah.
Like
she was slated to get 6 new kittens today, but then something changed, so we only got 3, which I think is fine. But unfortunately, instead of getting 6 healthy kittens, we got 3, unhealthy kittens, I guess. So be it.
That sounds like a bad trade. Less kittens, more work.
That's what I've told Robin. Oh well.
Right. Well, thanks very much, everyone. Great demo, and good luck, Henry, Scarbeck, Andrew, actually, like lots of exciting next steps coming. So speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.